and thank you for listening to today's episode of JAT Cast, the official podcast of the Journal of Athletic Training. I'm your host, Luke Donovan. For this second episode of the month, I will discuss the findings of an article from the most recent issue of JAT titled, Different Interset Rest Intervals During the Nordic Hamstring Exercise in Young Male Athletes, authored by Benjamin Drury and colleagues from Hartpury University, Bristol City Football Club, University of Essex, Bristol Rovers Football Club, and University of Los Lagos. As a reminder, the article discussed today can be found on the JAT website, natajournals.org. And please remember that all content from JAT is open access to all readers, thanks to the funding from the National Athletic Trainers Association. First step, surveying the scene. During resistance training, there are numerous modifiable parameters such as interset rest interval, volume, exercise order, and frequency that will influence the outcome of the training. Interset rest interval impacts both acute and chronic responses to resistance training because the duration of rest between sets has been shown to influence both the development of muscle strength and power. Both ATP and phosphocreatine replenish by about 85% within 3 minutes of exercise stoppage. Therefore, it is often assumed that the longer period of rest between sets results in a greater acute benefit during the resistance training when the goal of the training is to improve strength. A previous study has supported this notion where greater improvements in muscle strength were reported with a 3-minute long interset rest interval when compared to a 1-minute long interset rest interval. Therefore, many practitioners encourage interset rest of approximately 3 minutes when targeting increases in muscle strength. Despite this recommendation, clinicians should acknowledge that the current interset rest guidelines resulted from studies that examine interset rest during exercises that emphasize the predominantly concentric muscle action. The 3-minute interset rest interval recommendation may not apply to exercises predominantly consisting of eccentric muscle action. Studies have shown that both the energy costs and the level of fatigue during eccentric muscle actions was lower than that of concentric muscle actions. Therefore, during eccentric exercise training, interset rest intervals may not necessarily need to be as long as the recommended 3 minutes associated with concentric training. Again, if the goal is to maximize strength gains. This notion becomes relevant when considering injury prevention programs that target strength. Knowing that time is often a barrier to implementing injury prevention programs, the potential discrepancy between eccentric and concentric interset rest intervals may be of particular importance. One eccentric resistance training exercise known to reduce the risk of hamstring injuries among athletes is the Nordic Hamstring exercise. This exercise has been shown to reduce hamstring injuries by up to 51%. Increase eccentric hamstring torque and endurance, as well as change architectural properties of the muscle through increased fascicle length. Considering the numerous benefits of implementing the Nordic hamstring exercise as part of an injury reduction program, further understanding the optimal dosage, and in this case of the study, the appropriate interset rest interval, will prove beneficial for both injury reduction and implementation. Therefore, the purpose of the study was to examine the effect of a short and long interset rest interval during the Nordic hamstring exercise on measures of hamstring force and fatigue. The investigators used the randomized repeated measures crossover design to assess the effect of 2 different interset rest interval protocols on forces, asymmetries, and fatigue during the Nordic hamstring exercise. Participants completed 2 testing sessions. Where on the first session, they completed the Nordic hamstring exercise with either a short, 1-minute, or long, 3-minute interset rest interval. While in the second session, they performed the same exercise protocol, but with the opposite interset rest interval. The condition order was randomized, and the sessions were separated by 76 to 96 hours. Participants followed the same warm-up and Nordic hamstring exercise protocol. The authors chose 2 sets of 6 repetitions of the Nordic hamstring exercise to be consistent with previous studies that found this dosage to be associated with a reduction in hamstring injury risk. 10 healthy, young, male team sport athletes who complete at least 2 to 3 resistance training and 3 to 5 sport-specific sessions per week with no hamstring impairments participated in this investigation. Using the NORD board, peak and average force was measured across all repetitions during the Nordic hamstring exercise. In addition, interlimb asymmetries and fatigue were calculated. Here are the results. There were no interactions or main effects present between the short interset rest interval and long interset rest interval conditions, or sets for any variables. However, when examining measures within a given set, peak force from repetition 4 and onward significantly decreased when compared to the peak force generated during the first repetition. This finding was consistent during both sets and was not influenced by the interset rest interval. In summary, the findings of this study suggest that a 1-minute interset rest interval was adequate for maintaining measures of force and interlimb asymmetries between sets during the Nordic hamstring exercise. Therefore, adopting a 1-minute interset rest interval seems appropriate for clinical practice from a force production perspective. With that being said, future research should confirm the influence of the interset rest interval on injury rates. In addition, clinicians should be aware that regardless of the interset rest interval, 1 minute or 3 minutes, peak force begins to reduce after 3 repetitions of the exercise. As such, having rest within a given set may actually be beneficial. Well, that's it for today's JAT cast. Please remember to rate and subscribe to the podcast, which is available on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, and Stitcher. You can find out more information about upcoming podcasts and other JAT events on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram accounts at JAT_NATA. Thank you for listening, and keep a lookout for next month's JAT cast.